My name is Tepurotu Rina Fauura DeBarthe. I'm going to sing about Zion.
Okay, that's good.
This is Zion Tionanhenhed, the Beautiful. And this is a song that we sing in Tahiti a lot, and where the pure in heart is. Just before I came to Grayson College, that is in Iowa, and this is our church college at the time in 1966. And my dad was a missionary for the Reorganized Church at that time, called the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he told me, daughter, love the people of Zion. So I came and I was loved by the people of Zion in Iowa. And one of those is my husband, Paul. Paul Noah DeBarthe. And so I'm pleased to share this with you. I'm Rina. As I said earlier, I'm Rina DeBarthe, and I'm Paul DeBarthe's wife. And he's the archaeologist here at the Joseph Smith Visitor Center. And I just wanted to start to say that I'm a member of the Community of Christ that is known as the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am the 5th generation in the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ. My background is my people is from the island of Tahiti, and I was born in Papeete, Tahiti. Right now, I would like to take us back to Nauvoo, where we are right now. In the time of Joseph Smith, and I believe it's 1843, there were 4 missionaries that were sent to the islands of Hawaii, I believe, at first. But when they got to Massachusetts, the whaler was going to Tupua and to Tahiti. And so the missionary decided they're gonna go ahead and go to the islands. And on their way to Tahiti, one of their missionaries by the name of Nulton passed away on the boat, and he was buried at sea. And the three other missionaries continued their voyage. And when they got to the island of Tupuai, Polly Pratt is one of the missionaries who decided he would stay and start the work of the church there. And Benjamin Gruard and Noah Rogers were the two missionaries that continued their voyage to Tahiti. On the way down to Tahiti, they met also another person that was on the boat by the name of Lincoln, Seth Lincoln, I believe, and his wife. And there was also another young lady, and I forgot her last name, but her name was Rowena. And when they got to Tahiti, the English missionaries were already preaching the gospel to the natives. And so it was a little bit harder for them to come and start their work of the church there. So Benjamin Gruard decided that he will go in the outer islands of the Tuamotu, and he will go to the island of Anaa. And I need to say just briefly that my ancestors also come from Anaa, the island of Anaa. But the one that actually was a tourist at the time in Tahiti was John Hawkins, and he is my ancestor. He came from England, and I believe he went by way of Australia. And while he was there, he got married, and on the day of his marriage, his wedding, his wife was shot to death, and it was a very tragic, thing that happened. So his friend put him on another whaler, and then sent him to Tahiti, and he was there for a couple of years before the missionary arrived, and he befriended the missionaries like Benjamin Gruard and Rogers and Noah Rogers. And soon after, he was baptized in a church. And from there, the work of the church started with Benjamin Gruard in Anaa. And he has a very, very interesting story to tell if you have the chance to read it. I would not take the time to relate that. But not very long, I believe in 1852, because about that time, the French and the Tahitian were at war. They were fighting, but it was a very unfair war, if you will. How would I say, a battle, because the Tahitian had bows and arrows and rocks, and with the cannons that the French were using. So they were defeated very quickly. And but anyway, the French then became, they said that Tahiti was under their protectorate. And so there were other stories that needed to be told, but I'm going to briefly tell you that they became the how do you say, the government that took over Tahiti at that time, and from there the missionaries were told that they needed to go home, and Benjamin Gruard, he was married at that time to a native of Anaa. It was the daughter of the chief of Anaa, and he will go back to the United States, to California, and he would take his children with him and his wife. But while they were there, I believe it was the way the story said, the climate was not agreeable to her. But I know coming to California, the climate is wonderful. But I think at the time, because she is a very dark skinned woman, she was not accepted. So Benjamin kept his younger son by the name of Frank Gruard. And that is a story for all of you to read, is about the life and adventures of Frank Gruard by Joe DeBarthe. And that's my husband's great-grandfather who wrote that story. So I would invite you to read that. It will tell you a little bit more about the Benjamin Gruard, especially about his son. And but the story goes with the missionaries being sent home. It became obvious that the church was left with John Hopkins and other elders. They were native elders, because all the missionaries, like Noah Rogers, left home earlier, and then Benjamin Gruard is gone as well. So, as in Polly Pratt, and I believe that's his name, he was sent home as well. And so the Tahitians were left without any leadership actually from home, from Nauvoo, because at that time in 1844, as you know, Joseph Smith was killed. And so the church was without anybody running the church at that time that they knew of, the people in Tahiti. So my ancestor, John Hawkins, kept the church going for 20 years until in the reorganization, there were some missionaries that were sent to Australia. And on their way to Australia, they stopped in Tahiti to get some water and other produce. And John Hawkins found out they were on a boat and asked them, send someone to us. We're waiting. And so they did. There were some missionaries that came. So, like I said, I'm the fifth generation. My father, his name is Abraham Fauura, and he's John Hawkins' great-grandson. And he had been a 70 in our church since 1962. And in 1966, I came to the state to go to Grayson College, which is the church college at the time. I love the church. I grew up in Tarona. That's where our main church was when the missionary came, and they had a building there, and right across the street is where I lived. And so the churchyard was my stomping ground. I played there until I was 7 years old, and we moved to Tepurotu. Is one of the small, it's right in Papeete, but it's in the valley of Tepurotu. I used to live right across this church in Tarona, and that's in Papeete, actually. And as we were growing up in the church, everything about the church was so important to us, because we did not have anything else but be involved in everything the church offered. At the age of 7, my dad decided that we needed to move, and he needed to build us a home. And but because we were very poor, my dad didn't have hardly anything. So he went to the wharf of Papeete and asked the people at the wharf if they had crates that they were throwing away. And so they gave it to him. And every day I will ride with my dad on his bicycle on the rod, and I will hold on to one of the crates and we'll make that trip to Tepurotu in the valley of Tepurotu. And there my dad will take apart this crate. And my job was to straighten up the nail. And my dad will, day after day, and whenever he has the time, he would make that trek to Tepurotu. And not very long after that, we had enough wood to build our home. And he bought the 4x4, or I don't know how all the terminology for it, but so we could put a house together. But the interesting part about it is that you cannot touch the house. It has splinters all over. So our house is a beautiful house. My dad painted, but we are told not to touch it. But the important part about this, though, as I went to Tahiti, I told this story because I was sent there as the first woman being ordained in the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ. And I went there in 1987. I was ordained in 1985. But the people in Tahiti were not ready for the woman to be ordained yet. They were called, but they're just waiting. So I was sent there to just go and visit my family, but I was asked to come and preach. And I preached about the house that my dad built. And he used all the nails that were available to us. And there were crooked nails, there were nails without heads, and I refer that to us as people. We're not perfect. In order to build the kingdom of God, God has to use whatever material he could have. And that is the way we are. He accepts us the way we are, all with the crookedness, if you will, of the nail, like I was straightening it out. And my dad was able to build the most beautiful house in my eyes as a child of 7 and 8 years old, around that age. And I remember he painted a house, the brightest blue house in that area. And I thought that was the most beautiful house. But how interesting for me when I shared that with the people that night at Tiona, this place in Tahiti that the Tahitian people call Tiona. And earlier I sang about that song about Zion the Beautiful, where the pure in heart are. Because at that time, Te Parepare, which is the real name of that place, was changed to Tiona. And when the church was forbidden to exist in Tahiti, when the missionary was sent home, the Tahitian gathered at Tiona, and that's where they worship in secret because they're not supposed to by the French law at the time. But anyway, it is a beautiful analogy of God using all the materials, which is you and I, and building his kingdom. I wanted to continue to share with you because the night that I was asked to preach at Tiona, the place was packed. But one thing that was interesting was that not everybody were ready for the women to be ordained in the church. And I was the first Tahitian, priesthood member. And so when I came to share with them, there were a lot of people in the audience that were not ready for that. But come the following Sunday, my husband Paul, who was ordained the same time as I was as the elder of the church, he preached and I translated or I interpreted his sermon. And the people who came were touched by the way we were sharing in the priesthood. And after the church, I remember the presiding elder coming to me and to Paul saying, "We are ready for the women to become a priesthood members." And I felt that my call as a priesthood member in a way helped them to share with us in the joy of becoming a priesthood and doing the work of the Lord. And so Paul and I felt that our trip fulfilled something that, otherwise those women have been waiting for 2 years to be ordained. And so that was very fulfilling.
Can you tell about your own call?
Okay, for my call, at the time we were in Kansas City. Paul and I lived at the time in Kansas City, and it was through another minister from another church. He was a Baptist minister. He saw the Tahitian people. They are the delegates that came to the World Conference in, I forgot the year now, but anyway, they came, and on their way home, they were at the airport and they sang. They just such a beautiful, exciting, exuberant people, and they were singing at the airport. And this Baptist minister watched and asked Paul, "Who are these people?" And they say, "Oh, they are the delegates from Tahiti. They came to the World Conference, and now they're going back." And he said, and Paul said, "This is my wife, and she speaks French." And this Baptist minister said, "That is a Haitian man who shines shoes at the airport. Can she go and visit him?" And right then, my husband and I walked to where this Haitian person was, waiting for someone to shine their shoes. In the process of talking with Cypri, with this man, I found out he spoke Creole, which I don't speak, but we understood enough French, and Creole to communicate. And I was able to get the telephone number of another lady from Haiti who spoke French. And he said, "Call her." And I did. When I called her, I said, "Can we meet?" And she said, "Sure." And we called two other missionaries in Independence. And I called them and I said, "I would like for all of you to meet this lady from Haiti. I have not met her, but we would like to be friends." And we got together and we prayed together, and we found out that their song that they sang in Haiti were the same song we sang in Tahiti. And so we had something in common. We prayed together and they said, "Can we do this again?" And I said, "Why not?" So we met in each other's home. They came to our house, we went to their house, and this group started growing. And she had a need
Paul and I were able to help. Paul has the ability to write letters, and I'm able to translate for them. And we were able to help this lady who really had a lot of agony because her children were still in Haiti and she was here in Kansas City and she was safe. And in the process of time and of prayer and of getting together, we were able to bring her children to her. And in the time we were meeting at our house, I remember our presiding elder and the assistant came that night, right after our get together with the Haitian, our prayer and so forth. They said, Rina, we have someone, we would like to share with you. And Paul, you have been called to the priest, to the priesthood. And I said, I am willing and accepting the call. And I said to them, I had my experience a long time ago, before even the women were called to the priesthood. I said, in 1976, my father, who was a patriarch of the church at the time, came to the state and stayed at our house, and he gave me my patriarchal blessing. And in it, it was such a beautiful thing that because I asked for God to guide my life. And so my dad prayed about it, I prayed about it. And we got together and he offered the prayer. And in the prayer, my dad said to make the prayer as your way of life. And you pray for everything. And if you pray for your husband, your children, and all the activities that they do, it will be successful. And I believe that. And then in it also, it says, when the church will call you to assist them in anything, for you to accept that. And so I said, yeah, I already had accepted with God at that time that when He will ask me to do something for the church, I would do it. And so that was one of my testimony that I was ready to accept the call. The second one, I must say that I was not good all the time in prayer, because at one time I stopped praying, and I know that I needed to pray, but I am rebellious. I was rebellious, and I decided not to pray. And at the time, Paul and I didn't have very much money. We did not have insurance, health insurance. And so we depended a lot on the priesthood, the elders, to come and administer to our children when they sick. But because I was rebellious, I did not ask for them. And our children, two of our oldest daughters, were sick at the same time, and they had a very high fever. And their legs were, I don't know how to call that. What is it?
Convulsing.
It was convulsing. And that night, I watched them, and I was really sad because of the decision I made that I did not want to pray. I did not want to have someone to come and administer to them. And I knew, though, what is the right thing to do. And so I asked God for forgiveness, because I know all along that I needed to pray. And so I closed my eyes and I put my hand on both of our daughters' feet. And I started praying. And when I prayed, I don't know for how long, because I had a lot to unload. And then I said to God, whenever you want me to do something for you, then I am ready. That was, I believe, in 1978. And at that time, the church had not called the women to the priesthood. It was later, in, I believe, the date in 1984, I believe, when they were called. So when the call came, the presiding elder of our congregation came to share with us that I had been called. I told them I was ready already, a long time, and but I needed to share with my parents because the people in Tahiti were not used to have women in the priesthood, and so is my parents, who are my parents. My father was a patriarch at the time. He was waiting for God to talk to him. And when God will speak, he will hear and he will accept. And it did happen because I asked the presiding elder, give me 2 days. I would like to call my parents and share this with them on my call, knowing that my mom may not accept. And I said, it's all right. I'm ready to accept, even if she would not accept. Well, I called my mom and dad. My dad answered the phone, and I wanted to talk to my dad. And my dad said, here's mama. And I said, oh, I want to talk to my dad to explain to him. It's easier for me to talk to him. And my mom came on the phone, and I said, I had to be brave and share with my mom. And I said, Mama, I've been called to the priesthood. She said, yes. And I thought, Mama, did you hear me? Because I was not expecting for her answer like that.
She had spoken.
Huh?
She had spoken.
She had spoken before at a reunion for family, and she did not accept the women in the priesthood because it was announced, already, and she has hard time with it. But when I called, I don't know what happened, and she just was so pleased and said that I merit to be called to the priesthood. So I was very, very delighted, very happy, and but I couldn't believe that I was getting the reception that my mom gave me. And so when we came then in '87 and preached there, and the change of hearts, the people were ready to receive the women in the priesthood. And from there on, we have testimony of a lot of the women and men working together. And I feel that it's a blessing for all of us. I wanted to speak a little bit about Zion, the way the Tahitian people see Zion, especially my grandparents, my grandmas, and they grew up in the church and loving Zion, and they talk about it, they sing about it. We talk about Zion the beautiful, where the pure in hearts are, where there's no poor among them. And before I came to the state, I had a chance to speak with my maternal grandma, Comac, and she just loved me so much, and she said, "Oh, granddaughter, I am so happy. You're gonna go and you're going to be able to see the land of Zion for us. And so I was looking forward to that because we talk about it at church, but they loved it. I could see my grandparents really loved Zion. And they knew that they would never be able to come and see the land of Zion. But I was coming in 1966. But it's kind of interesting how people are, that even the very best of us, the people of Zion, sometimes we are not the best. We are prejudiced against other people. And I was one of those people who came, and I fell in love with Paul DeBarthe. And we are not of the same culture. I am Tahitian, and he's American. And I remember that people questioned about our getting married, that it was not right because I'm not of the right color. And they questioned about not being able to make it, maybe a year. But I'm happy to say, Paul and I have been married for 42 years and will celebrate our anniversary on the 14th of June this year. And we have 5 beautiful children and 6 beautiful grandchildren. And I'm speaking to you. I want you to know I love your grandpapa so much that I was willing to leave my country, the country of Tahiti, where the people love me. I have beautiful parents who loved me, who taught me the right way to be, and it was strict. They were very strict. I was not able to speak to boys even at age 17 because they want me to be proper and to finish my education. And then you think about boys afterwards. So when I came, and because I didn't have any boyfriend in Tahiti, so there is no one that I was really looking forward to go back home to. And Paul met me in our Spanish class, and invited me to go to church. And we got married, and it's interesting. Your grandpapa never asked me to marry him. This is what he said. How would you like to build a home in Zion? And I said, I like that very much. And that's my story about our getting together. And Grandpapa and I love all of you. And we'd like for you to find someone that you love, that you can share your life with. And happiness is where my home is. That's my home. And I found my home everywhere Grandpapa and I went to.